Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jens Heitland Show, where I interview experts from different fields to connect the dots of innovation and entrepreneurship. My name is Jens Heitland, and I am your host. Today's guest is Assistant Professor of Experience Design. He's an experience designer for the people. Please welcome to the show, Andrew Lacanienta. Hello, Andrew. Welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Hey, Jens, I'm doing pretty good, man. Really excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
It's great seeing you again. We haven't seen each other for a while now.
Yeah, it's been a couple years, probably 2 or 3 years since I've had the pleasure to see your face. So yeah, it feels good.
We need to meet up in person as well soon, as soon things are opening up.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the weather is beautiful in California. So as soon as things get a little clearer and a little more normal, we'll do it.
We'll do it. So before we go into innovation and of course, experience design, tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What is your story?
Well, Jens, I was born and raised in Utah, which is a very conservative, interesting, and beautiful place. Lots of mountains, and I had a big family. I was the oldest of 5 kids, and grew up there, and it was really good. I lived a really good life. And I think a lot of my story happens towards like 18 or 19 years old, especially in regards to what we're talking about today with innovation and experience design. And I went and served. I was part of the Mormon religion my whole life growing up, and went to church every Sunday. And at 19 years old, we served missions, the Mormon missionaries, right? Lots of people know about them. And I went to the Philippines and served my mission there. And for 2 years, I lived in the mission in the Philippines, and kind of walked around and taught people and talked to people. And it was a really special experience. I mean, at 19 years old, to be shipped to the other side of the country by yourself and just be told to live and teach people, that was an experience in of itself, right? But yeah, while I was there, I had done a year of college already at this point. And so I was just kind of still figuring myself out, right? As we do at the age of 19, and what did I want to study, and what did I want to do? What did I want to be? And I knew I wanted to have a degree in business, or innovation or entrepreneurship of some sort. And those were the classes that I had started taking at Brigham Young University prior to going to the Philippines. And then when I was in the Philippines, I started working with youth a lot. Like, we had a lot of youth that were kind of following us around as missionaries and helping us. And so when I got home from my mission after 2 years and went back to Brigham Young University to finish my degree, there was a degree called Recreation Management and Youth Leadership that kind of caught my eye. The youth leadership piece specifically caught my eye. But I also noticed that it was in the business school, which was interesting because that's where I was taking my classes before I went to the Philippines. And so I said, let's give this a shot. And I went in and started talking to people, and it turns out they were actually shifting their name from Recreation Management and Youth Leadership to a Department of Experience Industry Management at the time. And the department is now called Experience Design and Management in the Marriott School of Business. I thought, okay, this sounds interesting and innovative and new, so let's test it out. And I remember my first semester being in a big auditorium of students, probably 300 people. And I remember exactly where I was sitting when I saw a slide come up on the screen of the experience economy. And the class specifically was called How to Create a Good Life Through Experience Design. Oh, that sounds very interesting. Anyways, and I remember where I was sitting when I saw this graph, and they talk about this progression, right, of coffee. If you remember from the book of the Experience Economy, where they talk about commodities to goods to services to experiences and then to transformations. And I just remember being so captivated by that idea, Jens, that because I felt like I'd always been a very service-oriented person my whole life. I always liked doing things for people and serving and seeing people's smiles, etc. So this idea that we could transcend that to an experience felt really exciting. And so I went for it. I said, this is it. This is what I want to do. I want to design experiences and create experiences for people. And I don't think I knew what that meant yet. I think it felt exciting and it made a lot of sense, and it was like really psychologically enticing, but I don't know that I really fully understood like what it meant to be an experience designer. And so I just kind of continued moseying forward. And at the time, a year later, I was married, and we were starting to have children at the time. And yeah, was kind of figuring out what I wanted to do. And someone said, well, you love teaching. Because at the time I was teaching, right? I had been teaching for 2 years as a missionary. And then I came home and was actually teaching at a missionary training center, which is where I kind of received my, lots of skills and tools on how to teach. And so I thought, okay, like maybe I'll teach experience design. And so I talked with a bunch of people and started doing some research, started doing some teaching, and kind of realized that I had to do a master's and a PhD to get down that track. And so I just kind of buckled in and went for it. And I said, this is what I'm going to do. I graduated with my undergrad and then immediately started my master's degree at BYU as well. Did that in 2 years, and then immediately thereafter moved to Texas A&M University and started a PhD there. And that was when I really understood what it meant to be an experience designer, I think, because that was in 2016, I believe, is when I moved to Texas to go to Texas A&M. And in 2016 was when I went to the College of Extraordinary Experiences for the very first time. And when I met you, actually. Yeah, that experience completely changed the way that I thought about experiences and how I designed experiences and my network of people who were experience designers. It opened up doors to consulting, to speaking, to designing in different ways with different people that I had never really understood or felt before. And I really think if I had to pinpoint one thing that was the biggest catalyst for experience design or for changing my own perspective and mindset about experiences, it was the college for sure. And yeah, and I mean, even going, I heard about that conference just 2 days before it happened. Someone sent it to me in an email and they said, look at this thing that I'm going to. And I thought they were joking. It didn't look real. I mean, it was Joe Pine and Mark Wardesky and Paul Balenciaga talking about this mystical castle in Poland where you could go and have experiences, right? It seemed fake almost at the time. But, I learned that you never know unless you try. Okay, so I didn't have any money at the time. And it was, I think, like a $5,000 ticket to go. And so I just sent them an email and I said, hey, I know this is happening in 2 days. And I'm just a very poor graduate student studying experience design, but I'd love to come and I think I can add value in these ways, and so on and so forth. And, one thing led to another, and they granted me a scholarship to go to the college, and I went and met you, and I went every year for the next 4 years, and things just kind of continued on. And from there, yeah, great things happened. I graduated and then I moved to San Luis Obispo, California, which is in the Central Coast, and landed a tenure track position at Cal Poly in their experience industry management department. And that's where I've been ever since for the last 3 years or so. I've been working there, teaching students. And I really feel like that is my gift, Jens, is to teach. I love teaching, and not just dispensing information, right? But guiding learning journeys. It's like helping people move and shake and experience and learn by doing. And so it's been great. And even over the last year in COVID, right, when we've been teaching online, we've really been able to continue learn by doing in the classroom, which has been really epic, to teach experience design and have them connect with clients and create virtual events and in-person events for themselves. And even just creating experiences out of the dinners that they're doing at their homes with their groups, their little bubbles, right, has been really exciting and meaningful. And now I live in the North Bay area. I've been up here since February, I guess. My partner, Alita, has a beautiful farm that she works on. And so I get to go out there and spend time on this beautiful farm. And we have dreams of making a big retreat center is kind of our goal, is to get some land out here and build a retreat center and host experiences out here. Yeah, I think that's kind of the story. We'll pause there and we'll move forward.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So I would like to get a little bit into experience design for the listeners who might not familiar with what experience design is, and even that you can study it as one of the examples. So can you give us a little bit of understanding of what experience design is?
Yeah, so experience design in a nutshell, Jens, is a provider and a receiver, right? Intentionally orchestrating and co-creating different experience elements together for a specific outcome. And that sounds very, very broad, right? And huge. And that's because, in my opinion, it is. And one of my goals is to teach every person in the world that they are an experience designer. So for me as a teacher, for example, I am working with, as the provider, working with my students who are the receivers, right? And we are co-creating in a classroom by give and take, finding out what each other need. And we're orchestrating experience elements like assignments and meeting times and synchronous or asynchronous classes, tests, etc., so that we can have the outcome of higher learning, right? So that we're learning about experience design and preparing the students to be able to get jobs on the job market. Similarly, maybe if we think about a different example, like selling a house, right? So if you're selling a house and you're working in that market, well, you are going to be working with the buyers of the house, right? As the giver and the receiver, you're going to co-create that experience. What do you want the house to look like or to feel like so that you can sell it in the proper way? And how can you create the experience in the home for the home showing or for living in the home in a way that is beneficial to everyone? Similar with a hospital, right? If we work in a hospital, the nurses or the surgeons or anyone that's working in the hospital needs to work with their patients, right? Or the families of the patients to co-create the experience of what's taking place in the hospital. And so I use some of these examples to share that experience design can be used anywhere, right? From a corporate space to from like corporate onboarding or the culture of a company to a classroom or to a post office. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, I would like to dig deeper. Why is it so effective? I mean, we both met in an experience design conference in Poland in 2016. And similar to yourself, for me, a lot of things have changed since then, definitely. But it's, I mean, this experience was so big and so well designed that it is having an impact on us still today. And that's like 5 years after the conference. So what is so special with experience design?
Yeah, that's a really good question, Jens. I think the big distinction between a service and an experience is that services, like I would argue a normal conference, right, that's not experiential and immersive and awesome, is time well saved, right? Just like getting a coffee somewhere, it's just saving us time. And an experience is time well spent, right? So these experiences are time well spent. We went to that conference and we spent amazing time together, Jens. I remember being with you in the dungeon bar, right? Being sung happy birthday to on my birthday in 2016. And I will never forget that, right? Now that was serendipity, right? That just happened out of nowhere. I'm sure the organizers of the conference didn't plan that experience. But the difference between an experience, right, is that it's intentionally designed. It's intentionally designed with certain outcomes in mind. There's a whole lot of sparkle and glitter, right? And we're designing for time well spent. We're not just trying to make this quick thing that happens and helps us move through our day quicker, but we're designing experiences where people will plant their feet and be where their feet are and focus on that thing, that brand, that organization, that product, whatever it may be. But we want to create experiences that allow people to be where their feet are fully. And research has shown, right, we've done a lot of, as an academic, we do a lot of research on experiences and how to design more meaningful experiences. And we've found that, you know, experiences that are intentionally designed in that way, specifically using certain tools and theories and frameworks, provide higher net promoter scores, right? Higher amounts of perceived value of time spent and higher delight, etc. So they're better, right? And Pine and Gilmore, even back in 1999, argued that people pay more money for experiences. And I think that has continued on. Even though that was 1999, I think the youth and the people of today are more interested in investing their resources, both time and money, in experiences versus physical products or things.
Yeah, I would like to take a little bit the business angle, because my listeners, or most of my listeners, coming from a business context. So why do you think, and how do you think business people working in business, having their own business, should double down and looking a little bit how they can build in experience design for whatever they are doing?
Yeah, absolutely, Jens. I think it goes back to this idea of what are you creating now and what do you want to create? So if you are currently offering a good or a service, right, that is time well saved, we're saving people time with our stuff, which is great. How do we shift to make it time well spent, right? How do we, whatever offering it is that we're providing, how do we start to provide more time well spent? Now, that's not to say that time well saved isn't important, right? Because if we can provide a really good service, then we're providing time well saved. But then with the time that they're saving, they can then spend that time with our brand, with our organization, with our people, with our products. And so it's really just important to start thinking holistically about the experiences people are having, whether that's the experience in your waiting room, the experience of like filling out an invoice with your organization, the experience of being onboarded into your company culture, whatever it may be. If we can invest just time, right, and some resources in thinking more holistically about experience, the ROI, or the return on, I would say ROE, return on experience, is huge.
Switching to innovation. So what do you see from an innovation perspective? What's happening in the experience design market and how it's moving? How has it changed over the last years?
Yeah, I mean, over the last year specifically, right, we've seen people innovate in the virtual space a lot. So they were forced to switch into this virtual space. And now as things open up, we're kind of switching into something that's much more hybrid, right? So people are creating experiences that are both virtual and not. And that's all good and dandy, but I don't know that I want to focus on that. I think if we're really trying to be innovative, Jens, in this space, this is my humble opinion, I think we need to go back to the basics, to be honest. I know that innovative is the new, right? But I think sometimes we have to bring back the basics to be truly innovative. And I think what I mean by the basics is that, like, I really strongly believe in tools, right? A good carpenter has really good tools. And I believe that in experience design and in any of the things that we do, having good tools allows us to be better workers, to design better experiences. So I think if we're going to get really innovative in the experience design space and really like create new things that are awesome and replicable and helpful to the world, we need to use tools and theories and frameworks. And luckily there's a lot of scholars in the world right now that are working on some of these things. And I think it's quick to like poo-poo on tools and frameworks. It's like, we don't need any of that theoretical BS, right? And like, those are things that can guide and help, especially in a teaching realm, right? If we're trying to change perspectives on experience design and helping people understand all over the world that we need to create experiences and create meaningful time well spent, well, those tools can help us get into that space, right? And kind of be like bumpers on the lane and guide us towards that space so that we can then create better experiences. And then maybe we ditch the tools later. But I think if we're going to be truly innovative, we need tools and we need frameworks to help guide us into that way.
People. What is it about people? And before we started recording, we talked a little bit about culture changes and experience design, how this could work together and so on. But one of the things, and not just because we have spoken about it before, but it's also, I've seen it with you as well in 2016 already, that you're very deeply interested in people and the experience of people. So what is that? Where does it come from?
I don't know. I think it was always just something inside me. I love people, right? Like I want people to, I used to always say, pay me in smiles. I just want to see the smile and the enjoyment and the engagement, because we do so many mundane things in our lives, Jens. We sit through really mundane meetings, and a lot of people work really mundane jobs and go to dinner at really mundane places, right? And I want people to have exciting experiences in their dinners, exciting experiences in their meetings, and so on and so forth. And so people have just always been really important to me. It's really important to me to connect people as well. I feel like a connector of communities. I really want people to feel, I mean, when I think about basic psychological needs, right, of autonomy, and competence and relatedness. That relatedness piece is huge. So when we're designing experiences, thinking about those three things, again, competence, autonomy, and relatedness, it's like, how can we connect more people? And the people are really important, right? Of all shapes and sizes, whether they're my students in the classroom or my experience design community like you, the business community, which are all the wonderful people listening to this, and elsewhere. And then like the people, right? Like I want to be an experience designer for the people. And when I say the people, I think often when we think about experience design, we think about large corporations, or we're thinking about, everybody who can hire a consultant to come in and create organizational change, which is important. And I'm actually excited to do those kinds of things as well. And I believe like I want to bring experience design to everyone, to the mom and pop store on the corner down here on High Street or on Main Street, right? And teach the local pub how to design better experiences, or how to teach elementary school classrooms how to design better experiences, or just families, right? Families who are at home this summer with their children. How can we design better experiences for our families and for our own lives? It's really awesome to be a university professor and to be able to teach 18, 19, 20-year-old young adults how to design the most important experience that we have, which is our life, right? And so, yeah, people matter to me, Jens, and being able to teach them about experiences, I see how that's able to elevate their lives from a normal space to an experiential space, right? Where everything feels a little bit more meaningful. And that feels a lot more meaningful for me. So.
Yeah. I would like to go into two examples, one corporate version and one more personal version. So
sure.
How could, if we just take the example that in some countries, like in Germany, kids are still not going to school because of pandemic and so on. So how could a family, a local family, use experience design enhancing their life inside of this environment right now?
Absolutely. Wow, that's a great question. I think first and foremost, I can make a lot of assumptions for them and for those families, right? But I think if I was going to be teaching it as a teacher, right, I would ask these families I would interview them and find out what are some things that they need, right? So need finding, I think, is the first thing. Find out what are they needing right now? Are they needing connection? I would assume, right, that most of these children are searching for connection, and they're searching for friends, and they probably want to be outside a little bit. They also probably want to feel safe. They probably are tired of being on screens and on Zoom, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that's the first thing. Experience design, we often use the same word or is synonymous with human-centered design or user-centered design, right? Because we want to find out what the people want or need. What do our users want or need? So I think I would talk to them, but let's just assume, right? Let's assume that those are the things they need. They want connection, they want safety, they want to be outdoors maybe. So then how do we create an experience for or with them, co-create an experience with them that allows them to do that, right? And I mean, do you want to get into like brainstorm like what an experience might look like that would help that situation?
Yeah, of course.
Cool. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is I think it would be really cool to create some type of solo scavenger hunt type experience for these kids where they get to participate, right? So I could see everyone in a neighborhood or a block of homes choosing a teddy bear or some kind of stuffed animal from their house, right? And putting it in the window of their house, okay? So this would need to be a coordinated effort, of course, of let's say 12 different houses, 12 to 20 houses. And they would then, all collaborate and say what their address is, and also what was the animal in the window, and make a list of sorts, right? And this could be over, a square mile of space or however big you want to do it. And then this gives an opportunity for the kids to get outside, right? Masked up probably, of course. I'm not sure what the rules are in Germany right now, but go out with their parents for a walk, and they now have purpose, right? They're able to get out of the house, B, they're like searching for something, right? That one of their friends or someone in the neighborhood has placed something in their window for them. So they're able to go around and look, maybe they've printed off this sheet of paper, and then at 226, Hemingway Way, they find this giraffe that's in the window that they've been looking for, right? and they're able to maybe wave at some of their friends and feel safe, but also start to feel connected as they move around this city. Okay, and that gets an opportunity again for children of lots of different ages to get outside, to connect with people in the neighborhood, and do so in a safe way. And that seems like, yeah, just a quick brainstorm or throw out an idea of ways that we can design experiences, right, with ourselves, with our families, or with our community.
Yeah, what I love about that example, one thing is you're coming up with that on the spot. The other way is it's so simple. I mean, it doesn't require a lot of money, nothing. It's basically just being a little bit of intentional and saying, hey, let's do something, which creates a little bit of fun, a little bit of play.
Yeah, and that's a beautiful thought, Jens, because I think sometimes when we think about experiences, people are thinking about big stages and fireworks and virtual reality and like all of these things, and I just don't believe in that. Those things are great, right? They add a little bit of spark and hooray. And I think that good experience design can be done in a very simple way, right? Sometimes I think of experience design as just interaction design. We're just thinking about the interactions that we want to design for people so that they can have some meaningful moments. And that's a good experience. It costs you nothing but printing out a sheet of paper.
Yeah. Great example. Now I would like to go into a corporate example. Sure. Innovating on the spot. So that's a bit more my world. So there's a large corporation which has been super successful, but let's take COVID as an example as well. Due to the pandemic, they have been very hit hard. All their stores have been closed, so they need to kind of shift their strategy towards a new direction. So one perspective is they know they need to change their culture to a bit more, let's say, entrepreneurial culture, getting back to the beginnings where the company has been very, very successful because they have been fastly innovating on a day-to-day base. But then they have been getting into the world of, hey, we're very, very successful, and now we're protecting the success. And that's the stage where they are in. And they want to go back to getting into the space of, hey, we need to innovate. We need to enable our people to innovate on a daily basis. Yeah. How would you teach, as an experienced design teacher, this kind of company, and how would you do that?
Whoa. First of all, really cool prompts. Second, maybe as we talk about this can be our first prototype for when we do it for real someday.
Absolutely.
Future, right? I mean, so people are tired of Zoom, right? I'm not tired of Zoom in this moment. I'm very happy to be talking with you. But I think in general, right, there is this idea of Zoom fatigue. People are tired of being online and looking at screens and learning in that way. So if that is the context in which we're in, well, how do we use Zoom as a tool and a resource for good and not something that people are really struggling with? So if we're just innovating on the spot here, I think my idea, first, again, we want to start with outcomes, right? So we need to talk to some of the C-suite members, some of the managers, and some of the frontline workers, and find out what are things they need in regards to this training, right? How do they want to learn? How do they learn best? So on and so forth. And that would, of course, inform a lot of what we do. Assuming that they're similar to some of my students, right, which I've spent a lot of time interviewing over the last year, I think that Zoom, well, we would create a workshop or a week-long or 2 weeks, whatever, learning experience. And I think Zoom would largely be for debrief and for hands-on designing. I would see us making boxes, Jens, for each member of this organization. And in these boxes would include a number of books to read, right? It would include a number of creative, experiential ideas of things that are going to invite them to go out into the world, to see, to experience, to do, to reflect, to write, etc. So basically, this is very classic teacher. We're going to give them homework, right, that they have to do, which is going to include reading books, watching videos. Maybe we would pre-record some lectures or things for them that are very in short chunks, right? 7 minutes at most, maybe. And they would do work. And then we would meet on Zoom to debrief, to talk, and to build community, right? To hear how people are doing in their own lives, to hear about their thoughts, help change those perspectives, and then give them opportunities to learn by doing, right? Whatever the topic is that we're learning that day or that week, we're going to give them opportunities either out on their own in this box of awesome supplies and gifts, or in a group setting on Zoom where we're going to be brainstorming and ideating and doing some rapid prototyping all together. So I think it starts with helping. I want them to feel really special. When they get that box, I want their name to be on the card. I want them to open it. I want it to be beautiful. I want it to have all the things that are going to be there for their success and their growth and their learning, not just like a backpack full of homework, right? I want them to see this as something really beautiful and exciting that we curated for them. And then, really facilitating a safe space in the learning area where we can hear them and their ideas and their perspectives and how things are changing. And I really think over a week or two of time, we could make some really big shifts.
Brilliant story.
Maybe we'll have a test at the end.
Yeah, of course. For a real teacher, you need to do an exam or something.
Of course. Or I mean, at least a final project. I'm not huge on exams, but yeah, final project.
No, I think, and thank you for doing it on the spot. I think that shows a lot on how important experience can be, because from a teaching context, you could say, or content rather, hey, you need to read these books, you need to watch this videos, and then you need to attend Zoom meetings. So if we just limit it to that, you can do this in a old-fashioned way, which is, hey, there are the books, read them. Or you can, again, build an experience around that where everyone is kind of hunting for doing it, because they know that something happens, that they know that things are working in a different way. Love that. Really. And again, it's just doing a little bit of intentional work before and designing it with the purpose of how do we engage people inside of their situation in a different way, that they feel it, and then that's maybe the whole thing. It's that they're not doing it from a brain perspective only, that they are using their whole body and doing it going forward.
Yeah, and I mean, Jens, just real quick on that note too, I'm not walking the walk that I normally I talking the talk. I'm not walking the walk because I really believe in tools, right? Like we mentioned earlier. And I love that you keep on bringing up this idea of designing with intention. And I think one of the ways we can do that is by using tools, simple tools like customer experience maps, right? Or using creative problem solving processes like design thinking, right? And these are things that can really help us focus and say, again, what are our users' needs? What are the outcomes we're trying to get to here? And then we can work backwards, right? Deciding what are the touch points that are going to help us do that? What are the reactions to these touch points that we need? Who needs to be involved, et cetera, et cetera. So while we did do some off the cuff brainstorming today, I do also really believe in using those tools, and those help us to design with more intention, like you said, which I appreciate. So,
and I think with that perspective, specifically for the business listeners, is you design with an outcome in mind. It's not that let's do something. It's like you predict the outcome and you go trying to get there.
Yeah, that's really important, Jens, because our customers or users are really good storytellers, right? And they will tell many, many stories. And sometimes it's not going to be the story that we as the organization want to be told. So if we can think really intentionally about the stories that we want our customers and users to be telling, then we can design the experience in a way that kind of leads them to have certain reactions and feelings, and then tell those stories that are, that we want.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Brilliant. I would like to transition us to the last part of the podcast.
Sure.
Though I could brainstorm with you a couple of hours more, but we'll
do it later. Yeah.
So I have always a couple of rapid fire questions. Number one is, if you could be part or leading a project, an initiative that's impacting every human being on Earth, what project would it be and why would you choose it?
Holy cow. I mean, if this is rapid fire, this seems silly, but I would teach everyone about experience design, because I really, truly believe in it, right? Even if you are a stay-at-home parent or the president of a country, right? Experience design can help you in whatever realm you work in.
That's good.
And I mean, it would impact and it might impact people, if nothing else, on their level of happiness and thriving, right? I feel like I'm thriving at 1,000% right now, Jens. And I think that I'm able to do that, not because of my circumstance or if I have money or any of these things, right? But because I know how to live with a little bit more intention and design experiences in my life. And that creates a higher level of happiness than I think I could get from anywhere else, right? It's in our control. And I want to give that to people and teach them how to do it.
That's great. Next one is, where will you be in a year from now? And you can answer that personal and or business wise.
Oh, where will I be in a year from now? Oh man, I don't know. A year from now, Jens, I hope that I am still teaching. I think that's where I want to be in a year from now. I want to be guiding learning adventures for students, for C-suite officers, for businesses. I want to be helping them learn more about experience in their lives and in the lives of the people that they're serving. I also want to be living in stewardship with land. I'd love to find some land out here in Sonoma County and live on that land and create a beautiful farm and a beautiful retreat center where we can bring people to learn. And maybe a year's time is too soon, but we're gonna put it out there, and I'm gonna shoot for that aspiration. Yeah,
that's great. How do you keep yourself informed and up to date and educated on different topics?
That's a good question. So I like to read a lot. So I enjoy reading books. Right now, something that's really keeping me up to date on new topics and kind of feeding me intellectually is it's an organization called the WXO. So they're the World Experience Organization. And I've been working with them as a founding circle member. And we've been doing these experiential campfire talks where we get together each week and we have a campfire talk. Someone hosts a keynote, and then we do some breakout rooms. Other people will do workshops, etc. But that's where I've been getting a lot of my intellectual food, if you will, learning from different experienced designers all across the world in tons of different fields and spaces and contexts. And that's really been feeding me a lot lately. It's been really amazing.
Great. Last one, where can people find you? How can people reach out to you?
Yeah, I mean, the best way to find me is probably on LinkedIn. I can share my LinkedIn info with you, Jens. You can also contact me via email. My email is just my name, AJ, and then LACANIENTA@gmail.com. And we're on LinkedIn, like I said, and we'll put that info in the comments below. But those are the best places to get a hold of me. And I'm always excited to meet new people, to connect, to talk experience, to collaborate, and to play.
Awesome. Andrew, thank you very much for spending the time with me. It was awesome to see and talk to you again.
Absolutely, Jens. It was my absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me on, and look forward to chatting more in the future.
Same. Thank you.
Okay. Cheers.